Okay, I think we can start. And so, hi everyone. Thank you, Martin, for joining us today. And I know that today's topic is very important for all the residents here. Today, we will chat and talk with Martin about safety and security in the NFT space. I'll leave you the floor in a bit. I just want to say, as always, feel free to use the chat to connect with us during the presentation, and or of course talk, unmute yourself and then talk. So thank you again, Martin. If you want to start introducing yourself, it would be great. I'll be here for anything, for any problem or support.
Sure, thanks, Mathilde. Yeah, I'm Martin Lucas. I am a new media and crypto artist based in Montreal. Been minting NFTs and crypto art since 2018. Co-authored a position paper on crypto art in 19, and since 2020, I document kind of the history of crypto art. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of vertical crypto art and happy to. I think it's now my second presentation here, and it's exciting to see some people in the audience we've met already in real life during a conference in Montreal. So it's great to be here. And the way I kind of imagined this to happen is I give you just a short presentation, outline a couple of points, and then we can go really like more into a Q&A, because I believe there's a lot of things to cover, and it might be easier if we work it on like concrete examples. So right now I cannot see the chat. So Mathilde, if you see some questions which you think should be worth addressed right away, let's do that. If not, we can cover them all at the end.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right. So great. Yeah, safety and security for artists in the NFT space. The space changed a lot during the last almost 4 years. As the market grew, more money, more problems, as they say. A lot of people came into the space to basically extract money, and some do it in a legal way. Others tried to scam people or tried to steal. And unfortunately, artists were kind of identified as a target group because often they are not technically not so versed or not that interested in the technical aspect. It's hard to make it as an artist, so they really kind of prey with schemes I'll outline later, really on artists, which was kind of like sad to see and to observe. And I think it's important, that we talk and share these things as they evolve, so we can avoid that artists who not necessarily have an easy stand already will not suffer more from this. So this talk is not to scare you, but it's to prepare you. And really the objective is to not end up like some of these artists, what happened to them. And I'll start with maybe a little bit of just basics. If we look at wallets, so I'm sure that by now most of you have already wallets, and really the key difference on a wallet is you have like typically a public and a private key. So your public key, you can just imagine, serves as your address. It helps people to identify you. It helps yourself to identify yourself on like platforms or like metaverses. And it's something which you can and sometimes even need to share with others. So this is the portion of your wallet which is totally fine and up to debate. The biggest care we have to apply on the private key, because that is really the only access to your account. And as I wrote here in brackets, it also gives you full control to your account. So if you, for instance, change your computer and you want to recover or reinstall your wallet on another device, you always need your private key. And it's important to know that once you generate in a wallet, typically your public and private key at the same time, your private key, you're the only person who has this private key. So there is no, there's no bank, there's no password reset, there's nobody to contact. This private key is basically your responsibility, and nobody else has it. At the same time, nobody else needs it. So it seems intimidating at first, but it's something you'll get comfortable over time. But it really puts the responsibility on your side that you are really in control of your money, if you want to, or if your art and everything which goes around with your career. So keep that in mind, because the private key really gives the entire control. So people can sell your assets, they can sell your NFTs, they can transfer everything to themselves, they can basically do whatever they want. And that's why the private key always requires like a lot of attention. And I wrote it here again in capitals: nobody needs your private key other than yourself. If we look at the private key storage, there's always like offline over online. What do I mean with that? Basically is, if you write down your private key, always write it down on a piece of paper, or never on a computer. It's important to store it at different location. Think of fire, flooding, etc. If you have your private key, let's say in a notebook, and your notebook is at home, but then there's a fire, it would be inadvertently lost. So, there's different possibilities. You can save it with relatives, put it in a bank, in a safety box in a bank, but really consider, spreading your risk by also geographically locating your keys apart. It's really essential to have no digital trace of your private key. So, you don't want it to be saved like as a photo on your computer. You don't want to have it saved as text. You certainly not want to use a password manager or something. It's really important that there's no digital trace of this private key, because there's people who are actively looking for that and trying to hack into computers and searching for it where they can. So keep that in mind, and try to store it offline. Think about how you can store it safely, and make sure you don't save it anywhere online, not in the cloud, not anywhere, not on a web server. Make sure you keep it offline. As you go forward, your strategy can adapt with time. The more, let's say, you would amass on like a crypto art collection, or you would amass crypto, the more sophisticated you want to develop your strategy. So, there's different options where you could even not store the entire private key, but you could, for instance, save one half in one location and the other one in a second. So there's really, as you go along over the years, and you might want to just research and make sure that you can kind of become more and more aware and more safe and secure about the way you store your crypto and your art. One important thing to mention here is basically what we call hot and cold wallets. So let me just give you one or two sentences on the difference. A hot wallet is usually connected to the internet. So it's mostly a browser extension or softwares. The examples you probably already know are like MetaMask for Ethereum, or Temple for Tezos. But also, if you're, for instance, using an exchange to, convert your local currency into crypto, then this exchange would assign you a hot wallet in which you basically transact and interact. I like to see the hot wallet as like similar to your physical wallet. When you go out, you don't want to carry everything you belong always with you, right? So it is necessary, because you don't want to, you want to have access to it. It's convenient. It's sometimes even necessary in your day-to-day. You want to mint pieces, you want to register yourself like on a metaverse, or you want to buy things, but at the same time, you don't want to carry always everything with it, so you don't have basically everything at risk if something would happen. Even if you're walking in the street, somebody could steal your wallet. This could also happen here, so you don't want everything you own in it. And in order to do that, the hot wallet as being connected to the internet has this risk, because if somebody would gain access to your computer and your passwords, they could instantly start transferring out the things you have in your wallet outside of your wallet. So in this regard, once you have crypto or you can afford it, it's really recommended to get a cold wallet as soon as possible. Two of the market leaders here are Ledger and Trezor. You see them here in the window as images. What they are, they're basically physical devices which are connected whenever you want to transact. So there's, for both of them, there exist like bridges. For instance, you can set up your MetaMask as a bridge to your cold wallet. And if you want to now make a transactions and your hardware wallet is not connected to your computer, this transaction would not be possible. So even, if somebody would gain control over your computer or hack it and whatever, they would miss this physical connection to your hardware or cold wallet in order to transact. Because whenever you want to transact with the cold wallet, it prompts you. And then you also need to confirm the transaction on the hardware device itself. So this is kind of like an additional layer of safety, which proved to be fairly effective in the past. And that's really, like a cold or hardware wallet, that's really the place where you want to store your savings, if you want to, whenever whatever you want to use, like in your hot wallet to just kind of like interact on a daily basis, but wherever you want to store away, that would be in your cold or hardware wallet. There is a couple of new suppliers around, Keepkey and Cool Wallet and others. So far, from what I see and hear from others, they still kind of predominantly stick to these two market leaders, Trezors and Ledger. It's important, really, if you want to get one, to buy it only on the manufacturer's website, and I'll talk later about it more. But that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. Then if we look at common attack vectors, and what I mean with that is, what do we see or what have we seen during the last few years? What happened to artists? So one of the common things is really they want to get your private key, right? So they you might be contacted in Discord, over Twitter, by email, whatsoever, by a support team that there's an issue with your account and you need to re-enter your private key whatsoever. Obviously, these are all scams, really, to get access to your private key, because once again, your private key gives them the full control of your wallet. Over the time, we saw these scams get really more and more sophisticated. So there's, for instance, cloned websites, and that be for wallets, or that could be for marketplaces, where they really create like an entire clone of an existing page or even a new page, and then, for instance, launch Google Ads for this, let's say, MetaMask, and then they write MetaMask with 2 T's or something like that, and then they'll place a Google ad. When you just type in MetaMask, you see this ad, and if you click on the ad, you basically land on this cloned website where you will be prompted to re-enter information, and they'll try to, gain access. So it is something to be very aware of, and always make sure, to verify the websites you go. Don't go on ads. Really go through the direct respective website of a marketplace, of an exchange, of a wallet whatsoever, because we've seen, as more money came into the space, more people came into the space, it became worth it for them to really go out of their way. Another example is manipulated hardware wallets or cold wallets. So what happened a few years ago, Ledger, one of the market leaders in these hardware wallets, they had like a marketing database, which stored the information of all the customers with, I believe, their addresses. And what happened is then basically the scammers created new Ledger devices and sent these manipulated devices to every owner of a device, saying them, hey, there was an issue with the hardware wallet. Here is a new fixed one. And in doing that, people would then migrate to this manipulated wallet and basically give the scammer all their access to their belongings. And this was caught fairly quickly, but this is just, one example on to which extent or to which scale the scams are occurring right now. And that's why it's so important, if you want to get these devices, never use marketplaces. Don't go to Amazon, really buy it only exclusively on the manufacturer websites. Most of them have even like a section where they show you how is the package, how is the original package, what are like the safety seals, really to make sure that your device is brand new and it's not manipulated. Also, whenever you have a wallet, and if you're not restoring one we already have, never use one if it's already like set up, because there could be, this could be like a potential indicator that there was something tampered with it. Another point is like attachments, and this is often, or it was often experienced with like commissions. So you would be, for instance, approached by a company who likes your art, and they really want to commission you to create an artwork for them. So then they typically would send you a file with a couple of information that would guide you to a website. Sometimes these websites are just, really created for this scam. They have like several pages, they have themes and whatsoever. They look legit, but if you open up the files, basically there's typically one file among them, which is, we saw file extensions like CDR or SRC, which then would basically have a keylog tracker or like a phishing Trojan or whatever, like, basically software, malware to track your passwords or gain access on your computer. So this is something which happened a lot on artists, or a lot to artists, and this is something to be aware of, because it seems to be still happening. So always, keep in mind to be careful. And if you see file extensions which you're not comfortable with, always send them like through a virus scanner, and always make sure that, if you're not comfortable with it, say it. And you could, for instance, say there's a file you don't want to open, they should put it like online or whatever, and if you see if they hesitate, they don't want to do it, then it might be an indicator that it's not really the right way to go with them. To some extent, these discussions about commissions even took place in real life. And this is something which is also quite worrisome, where, for instance, you would meet people, there would be like, sometimes even like a group of people. They would look all legit, come in their suits and whatsoever, show you presentations. And then, they offer you the files and they come on a USB stick, and this USB stick would install like malware on your computer. So, be also careful that we see these scams really happening on a more and more sophisticated scale than we've seen in the past. And maybe just the last example, which I've seen in the past, was like conferences, where people would offer things for sale, and then there's the Wi-Fi, for instance, would be then used to kind of try to hijack or spy on your devices and the transactions you do to get access to it. So a lot of people who go to these conferences, they have basically like, generic wallets created just for an event. They just put a little bit of crypto in it to do whatever they want, but they really don't take all their core wallets with them, where all their crypto and their art is stored. So this is just, a small overview which should make you aware that, there's a lot of people trying to target you as an artist, and really go all out to try to get access to your keys, to your art, and to your crypto. And then just a couple of best practices. It's like very important to manage your keys and your passwords as consciously as possible. It's like you're responsible for them, so act accordingly. If you can, use a hardware wallet as soon as you can. Set up, two-step authentication wherever it's possible. Just try to be, set it up as safe as possible. Have a virus scanner. be careful with your emails, do your due diligence, and act consciously, because there's a lot of stuff going on which might spoil your experience in the crypto space. And then, if you interact, browse, make sure you verify the domains you transact with. Don't use these ads to marketplaces and exchanges. Be careful when people reach out to you, and saying they're from support teams, or they ask you for commissions. And, when in doubt, always ask others, ask your friends, ask others in the space, and always do your research. So that's kind of like the wrap up of my short presentation. And I thought we can have it like, a little conversational part now, where if you have like concrete questions, or like if there's something unclear, I'll be happy to answer them.
We have one question in the chat.
Mhm.
Hannah Lucia is asking, what would you suggest the safest online wallet to save your crypto? Yeah, the main point of the question is this, because she's explained the wallet companies don't deliver where she lives. So yeah, she's asking for the safest online wallet.
They don't deliver where you live.
Mm.
That's a tough one. Do you have maybe? There is basically, with an online wallet, there's always the risk that it's always connected, right? Like there's no way to avoid it. But what you could do is you could basically create a browser-based wallet and make some sort of like paper wallet out of it. That means once it is created, you basically would destroy all evidence of it of your computer. You could, for instance, reinstall your computer, and then really the only place this would exist is basically a piece of paper, right? And you have like your browser wallet, like a MetaMask or whatever, which is in general, the wallets themselves, they're all fairly safe if you want them, right? What makes them safe, what makes them a little bit, what makes them at risk is that they're connected to the internet, right? If your computer is connected to the internet, or they have access to this wallet, they can transact right away. So that's an interesting question. I haven't heard that one before, but yeah, I mean, if you have, if you're able, I don't know, if you have like relatives which you really trust, maybe abroad, or friends abroad, which are really, like, which you have full confidence in, maybe there's an option for them to order it and then ship it to you. Or if you travel, or if you have the possibility to travel, maybe that's another option. But I think there is no way with a hot wallet to get around this security aspect of being connected.
I was talking to a friend of mine from Tanzania, and she has the same problem, and I got shown what is it, Genos Safe, like the multi-product, like the multi-signature sort of DAO thing, and I was telling her like if she could set up two different wallets and just add them to a safe with a multi-sig, and essentially transfer her most valuable NFTs to that in case one wallet gets hacked, the hacker still needs a multi-sig to actually get the stuff out. Would that be an option or no?
Yeah, multi-sigs are always it's something to be careful about, because I had once two artists, and they were trying. They reached out to me because they wanted to work together, like as a collaboration, and they thought like, hey, a multi-sig wallet is great. So each of us has to basically confirm whenever we want to transfer something, and so on. But the problem with multi-sig is that depending on how you set it up, you always need all the wallets, right? Let's give you an example. Let's say these two artists now, one of them gets kidnapped, or decided, to live like a hermit for 10 years. So the second artist basically would have no longer access to it, because you always need both signatures to transact. So multi-sig is great, but it has limitations.
I was
I
like
mean,
more talking about like if you are the owner of both accounts, right? If you're the same person, you just have two different wallets that are the only two wallets required for the multi-sig.
yeah, I guess you could go in that direction. But it's just, you have to make sure that you keep them both wallets accordingly safe, right? Because if you just, missing one would mean that whatever is in there would be lost. But yeah, I guess that could be an option.
I have a question, guys. Well, I just want to hear what will be your like recommendation, because in my opinion, like having a hardware wallet is very useful if you are like into DeFi, for example, that you like to interact with protocols. I don't know, like provide liquidity to some protocols or something like that, or you like to stake directly, delegate your own assets, or you're an artist and then you have to keep your keys secure because it's the way that you can actually mint and collect and get your royalties. But for other cases, like people who just want to invest, like let's say some people want to buy some Ethereum, some Bitcoin or whatever, and they don't want to do anything else with it, would you recommend them to have a hardware wallet, or is it just easier and more safe to just keep them in a famous big exchange like Coinbase or Kraken and then just forget about it? What would be
Yeah.
like your recommendation?
So there's three things here. First of all, exchanges are historically the worst place to keep your crypto, because in the past, the exchanges is basically a single point of attack, right? So an exchange hosts, let's say, thousands and thousands of these hot wallets of people who trade or who want to trade. So if once they get access to an exchange, they can basically extract a lot of crypto, and that has happened over and over and over again. So never really keep any crypto on an exchange longer than you have to. So that means if you're currently exchanging, that's fine, but as soon as you can, get it out of an exchange, because that was historically a lot of people lost a lot of crypto on exchanges because of that reason. It started with the Mt. Gox and it keeps going. We had last year several breaches, so it's really important that it's never on an exchange. I personally have like a mix, like I use a hot wallet for my day-to-day. Like I would use like a regular wallet, and then I have like, a cold wallet where I have like, the vast chunk of my art collection, where I keep, the crypto I don't need on a daily basis. And I think personally, if you don't have a cold storage, you're always a little, you're always at risk. This risk is really dependent entirely on you. If you're a very, safety and security conscious person, this risk might be very low. For a lot of people, that ended up with them losing everything they had. So it really, if you say like, hey, I'm a very, technologically versed person, my security is like top notch, I'm not afraid, that might work for you. But for the majority of people, it probably would be better to have a cold wallet, because it's just one layer more to keep everything yours. Does that
Yeah,
answer the question?
yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm still thinking. I know that like the big ones, right? Like for example, let's say Coinbase or something. I mean, since like the crypto space is getting like, I guess, more complex, more people are getting into it. These companies are getting more and more money. I guess, it's not. I'm not saying it's my case, but if I have a friend who wants to invest just a little bit of money, I tried them to understand, that you can have your own wallet and keep it yourself, but it's kind of a hassle. So people just say like, I just want to, let's say I don't know, my grandma or something like that, right? It's a bit tricky to understand them all the process. It's just easier to say, just buy a little, leave it there. I don't know. I mean, it really answered my question. Yeah, it's very useful, but I'm not sure if like, at the current state, like the big exchanges, I don't see them like going down with like all the crypto that they actually own at the moment. I don't know. I mean,
They're
I
not
could be
going
wrong.
down,
Totally.
but they have been hacked in the past. There
Yeah.
have been a lot of hacks. If you just Google, like a crypto hack, you will see, there's
Mhm.
so many lists of exchanges which got hacked in the last year alone, and we are talking
Yes.
about like, billions which got lost in DeFi platforms and then really exchanges. So, it's a risk. I mean, if you're comfortable with the risk, it's entirely up for everybody, right, to decide. I mean, this is the beauty, right? You are in charge of your fate and you make your decision, right? If you're comfortable with doing certain things, and this is, for instance, like, you're dealing with, like, let's say, I don't know, the equivalent of like $15 because wherever, that person is, that might be, a lot of money, maybe then the equivalent for paying like 60 or $100 for a hardware wallet might be not worth it. I agree, but once you reach a certain threshold, which would be hard or painful to lose, then it might be worth it to invest in this as like a security.
Yeah. There was like this story of a guy. Well, it was like the creator of a social platform here in Spain, a guy from Germany, and he had like a lot of crypto, like a lot of Bitcoin. He was like a millionaire in Bitcoin, and like it was like 2 months ago. Some people, get into his apartment. They knew that he had like the crypto, and then they were like, okay, you have to pass the keys to us. And then he didn't have any escape because they were gonna kill him. So he had to like give them the keys. And there was like, because the only barrier of escape was like, is from him to the money, right? So
Yeah.
as you were saying, right, you always have like, when you have to hold your own assets, it puts like a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as well, right? It's really nice that you can do it, but at the same time, it has like, this other layer that is different. That if you actually, it's like if you have the money in the bank, right? You just leave it to the bank, and it's kind of like, okay, it's your responsibility. Then they do whatever they want with that money. They get, you don't get much profit from it, but it's like always like, I guess, yeah, you have to choose what's best for your case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been cases also, where people which amass like a lot of crypto, that they, for instance, that they would use like multi-signature solutions, where they have like, for instance, there's like always three parties involved, like the owner, like for instance, like a treasury or like a lawyer, and then there's like a second device or whatever, So there is options, for instance, that, if you are at gunpoint, you aren't just able to do it. If that helps you in a situation like that, I'm not sure. I don't know. But, you can design the process that you can't transact alone, that there has to be always like a second or third party. And there's even services which offer that. But I think, it really depends again, like, what do you have? I mean, it comes at a risk if you amass a lot of crypto, right? As your example shows. And I think, if you go into that direction, you have to also make sure that you keep yourself and your belongings safe, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Sure.
Martin, I have a question. It seems, I don't know if it's like a wrong impression, but it seems like there's more hacks on ETH than on Tezos. And I don't know if it applies to other blockchains. I was wondering if this is indeed the case, and if it has something to do with people just being hungry for for ETH, or a difference, like an innate difference in the technologies of the blockchains.
I don't think necessarily it's that these hackers are prone to one blockchain over another. I think it's just like, where can we extract the most, So when Bitcoin was the dominant currency over the last years, you saw all these hacks on like Bitcoin platforms, and then with the whole crypto art, and NFTs, the majority of the space switched to Ethereum, right? So that would, consequently also justify that most of these hacks would target Ethereum, platforms, Ethereum exchanges, and Ethereum users. And Tezos is still fairly new in comparison, as like a platform. We have not seen, like these big volumes, big sales to the extent we have seen in Ethereum. But as this will surely change over time, I think, people will also look very closely on Tezos and see what is possible to do there. But I don't think that necessarily it's a constant conscious decision, that they are targeting certain chains over another. It's just like, where can we get, the most for our efforts, I think.
And like, there's no more
Yeah, if
vulnerable
I can.
chain than the other,
But
really? They're all kind of the same?
Well, if you think about, like, if you look at, for instance, the value of one ETH versus one TETH, right? TETH, there's always already kind of like a different value proposition to attack somebody who owns Ethereum. Somebody who has 10 Ethereum versus somebody who has 10 TETH. There's quite a multiple in potential gains, right? So that's why they target Ethereum more. Volume wise, what I mean with that is, think about that, the Ethereum NFT market was, I think, like at 42 billion last year. So I don't think that the TES market for art, for instance, was anywhere near that range, right? So I think as these things develop, people are looking where they can extract the most money. And I think it has not yet reached to the same extent Tezos than it has, the established high value blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum.
yeah, if I could add just a little, just at what you're saying, in Ethereum, like most of the protocols to do in DeFi started in Ethereum. That's why you have like a lot of protocols, and then they are starting to do stuff, and they are everything is very new, so there are a lot of opportunities to hack them. While in Tezos, everything as he was saying, right, is starting, so there are not as many opportunities for hackers to be there. But yeah, as he was saying, right, as soon as there are more DeFi protocols in Tezos, if that ever happens, then of course there are going to be much more cases of hacks around.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely, the DeFi space adds, enormously to the volume. I mean, that's what rose the whole transaction fees, right? So we just see that there's so much going on, so much things generated, so that consequently attracts, I think, the main part or the lion's share of people who are trying to tamper with it. I'm not sure if that answers your questions, Anna.
Yeah, I was just, I guess, being hopeful in my mind that somehow Tezos was less vulnerable. But I guess not. So I have to be careful on that one too. I mean, I know it, like you say, the value proposition is different, but still, nobody wants to get hacked.
Yeah.
I think hacks are good in this context because it gets protocols to get more secure. It's not good when you get hacked, but it's like it's the process of life, I guess, for digital products.
Yeah. I think Claudia unmuted. Yeah.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Martin. It's Claudia. I just had a question, and I guess more of a curiosity about the scams of people posing as, an agent, or, they want to commission an artist to do something. They're either DMing you through Twitter or emailing you directly. And I've heard of this scam go around before many times where they'll say, hey, we have like this slide deck we want to show you, and they like email you an attachment. And when you open that attachment, I think from what I understand, there's something like a keylogger that will then somehow take your seed phrase. And I've always been confused about that because in my mind, like, wouldn't the seed phrase have to be kept digitally, like in your browser through like a password keeper of some sort, or in your computer? Like, I've always had just a lack of understanding of how that works exactly. And it's kind of led to this fear of like, anytime I get like an NFT or crypto art related email, I'm always so careful about the attachments because I just don't know, like, I'm just too afraid to open it. So I don't know if you have any insight on like how that works or how like our best practices to be careful with that.
Yeah, so definitely, it's you're doing already the right thing of being always suspicious, because unfortunately we have to be. I know of another artist who, for instance, has like a really, really old computer, which he uses for all his emails, because emails are still one of the most common attack vectors, like all the messaging stuff. So he does all his work on that old computer, and then he basically has like his newer computer where he does all the transaction with, but he has no email on that one, for instance. But that's maybe something which is not practical for everybody. What I usually do is, because I have seen, some of these emails myself, I always I download things, or if it's not already like scanned online, I always send them through a virus scanner or malware scanner, and always try to make sure, is this file corrupted, or is there something wrong with that file? And typically the virus scanners always kind of alerted if there was like a weird file extension or something. Now there is, as we go forward, we don't know how sophisticated these things become. So I would recommend, if you're not comfortable with opening something, it's just to ask them politely, hey, there has been a lot of things in the space. Would you be comfortable, for instance, uploading your presentation into Google Sheets so I can see it online? If they're really interested in you and your artwork, why wouldn't they do that? And I think if does that answer a question? Oh no, the second question was like, how does it work technically, right? I mean, there's different approaches to it. Typically, the keylogger is just scanning for your passwords. There's, kind of like Trojans, which would allow them to basically use your computer while it's on, where they could then use these passwords and then log into your MetaMask and then authorize these transactions. There's not necessarily that the seed phrase, because you don't typically use and type your seed phrase all the time, right? Once your wallet is set up, you're not using it again, but they're trying to kind of like get access to all the related passwords to maybe gain control over your computer and then use it to authorize these transactions. Because your password to MetaMask, that's another little barrier. But with a keylogger, somebody who has access over your computer, he knows your MetaMask password, he can do whatever he wants. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I never keep my passwords online anywhere because I'm just so afraid of like viruses or something attacking my system where everything is stored. So yeah, thank you. That was good.
Okay, and there's different I think it's called Yubikey. Let me just see, Yubikey. There's like also like physical devices which kind of eliminate the need. I can just write the name into the chat so you can see it. It's basically like a device which is used to kind of enter passwords. Instead of entering and typing the password, these passwords are saved on this key, and then you just have to push it to confirm it instead of typing it in. So there's a lot of areas where you can be careful. I think one element I just want to point out, because I think it's important. This is something new we have seen, and this is basically unwanted NFTs which are transferred into your wallets. This is something which is coming recently more and more, where basically somebody would send you a random NFT into your wallet, and you would see it, for instance, in your OpenSea account, and you say like, hey, I want to hide it, or I want to delete it, I want to send it to a burner wallet or whatsoever. But the problem is, once you interact with this NFT, the underlying smart contract could be basically granting them access to your wallet. So this is something which is something to be very aware of. If there are unfortunately things in your wallet you don't want, it might be for now just safer to leave them be than trying to get rid of them.
Okay, we have another question in the chat. I don't know if you can see it right now, but it's from Luis Ricardo, and he's asking, once your wallet is compromised, what happens to it in terms of collectors, your reputation, etc.?
Yeah, once your wallet is compromised, you would have to really abandon it. So that means you would have to maybe try to contact the exchange, the marketplaces, and say, hey, I have now a new wallet. So please, everything which is not already sold, can we somehow, remint it under this new wallet address or just assign my wallet to it? But unfortunately, the royalties would always lead back, because it's just a smart contract, would always lead back to this compromised wallet. And if that compromised wallet is something whoever compromised it still monitors, that person could easily always take out these royalties. That's why it's important to be very, very careful and conscious about these things. Also, maybe one example, if you have already set up your wallet and you're already with the marketplace, there's two ways to go about it. It's like, one is trying to really move this address to a hardware wallet, which is not necessarily the ideal one. And you would basically try to delete all the digital traces on your computer about it, set this wallet up on a hardware wallet, and then use it as a hardware wallet. Or what would be also possible is that you convert this wallet or leave it as a hot wallet, and you just say like, okay, I'm going to create now an additional cold wallet, and everything which is transferred goes there. Most of the platforms offer now wallet splits. So you could use your hot wallet to mint a piece, but then decide, for instance, I'm going to give 100% of my commission or my royalty sales will go to my cold wallet in future. So there's a couple of ways to go about it. There's no ideal way, but it's just something to consider. It's something which I had to do as well, because I started with a hot wallet for the longest time, and then when I got my cold wallet, I didn't want to, I wasn't able to change everything like immediately. So I kind of slowly transitioned thing after thing over time.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I see a question from Ismailio. As a crypto artist, since sales are public, what's your view on keeping pseudonyms versus being public? I believe it's really entirely up to everybody to decide. I mean, that's one of the origins of this whole crypto space. It derived from the cypherpunk space. That's where Bitcoin was introduced, and one of their core elements was that you have the right to choose to privacy or not. So it really depends on yourself. What's your objective? For somebody who has, for instance, like myself, who was already working as an artist, who wants to be working as an artist, for me, it was like, it doesn't make sense to go with a pseudonym, because I'm already trying to make my art known. So it would be maybe negatively if I would now start with a pseudonym. For somebody who's entirely new to the space or cannot work under his name, a pseudonym might be interesting. I think it's entirely up for everybody to decide, and I think it's beautiful that everybody can decide.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, we just had one more question in the chat. Can a hardware wallet store multiple currencies? Yes, most of them are able to host several hundred dozens of different currencies, the main ones. Now, if you're looking for like certain new coins, social coins, whatsoever, the NFT integration is not yet ideal, but the main currencies, they are supported typically through most hardware wallets.
Martin, and then I have a ledger, and I'm really pretty bad at using it. The only way that I can sort of visualize the NFTs that I have in there is an OpenSea, but I understand that there's also like applications that run with the ledger software. Are there any that you like or that you recommend where you can visualize your NFTs?
I think we are still not there yet, where it's really like, where we have like the solution, because OpenSea might not showcase all of them. I think there's one app, I think something with fire. I wasn't overly fond of it either. I think this is really right now an issue which we have in this space, that there's no solution to really visualize and showcase all of our NFTs yet, especially if we are looking into cross-chain, So no, right now I'm not aware of like a good tool or extension for Ledger to really showcase all of your NFTs, because once the difficulty is also we have like all sorts of different standards, especially if you have like older NFTs, which might work on like the ERC20 protocol, or there might be hybrids, or they might use like something which does not fully comply. There would be it's very, very unlikely that these softwares or extensions would be able to display them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. But if anybody knows here, I'm also happy to learn.
There's one called Rainbow on there
Yeah,
that I
Rainbow,
tried to figure out, and I just couldn't figure it out, so I gave up.
Yeah, I didn't find it ideal either.
We have another question from Patricia,
Mhm.
and she asked, which hardware wallet would you recommend for keeping long-term asset transferred from Coinbase?
Like I personally work with the two market leaders, so I have a Ledger and a Trezor. I personally found if you but that's just my opinion. If you're more into currencies, less NFTs, I found the Trezor pretty good. If you're doing more with NFTs, I've personally found I preferred the Ledger a little bit more. And I've not experimented yet with the other new coming hardware wallets. So I wouldn't be able to give you like a good personal experience on them. But yeah, for me right now, between Ledger and Trezor, this works sufficiently enough.
I'm checking the chat to see if I missed something. Of course, guys, if you want to talk and ask something, go for it. Not just on the chat, so we can talk.
Yeah. And I'm going to also post the link in the chat. There's, if you want to just read an interesting story, it's called it's a Canadian artist called Fuck Render. He wrote basically a post-mortem after what happened after his wallet got hacked. What they did to kind of afterwards trying to restore as much as possible, and the steps they undertook with help to kind of minimize the impact. But nevertheless, there was a lot of crypto and assets lost. I just posted here in the link where you can read it from another artist's perspective, which has gone under it. It has also a lot of useful links to the hardware wallets and a couple of steps on how you can reset things and so on. So it's actually a good resource if you want to dive a little bit deeper. Okay, there's another question. Can I ask you how much of a safety issue old browsers are? I have an ancient computer with an ancient operating system. Oof. very hard, I guess, to assess, right? I mean, if it is, I mean, there's a reason for updates, right? But if it's, for instance, already a system which is no longer supported, might it be again negative, or could it be again positive because people would have moved away from that already? So I guess there is no definite answer. But typically, you want to just be sure that you use, the safest and most up-to-date virus scanners, up-to-date browsers as you can. If your system supports it, I personally use Brave, which I was pretty happy about it in the past, which allows you to eliminate a lot of, tracking tools and whatsoever. And it's a pretty lean browser, so if maybe it runs on your old system.
Are there any other questions?
All right, I think. Oh.
Well, I have one. I created my Kukai, my Tezos account, with my Twitter account because it was a long time ago. And now I can't change it, and I can't recover, or I can't download my seed phrase. So I guess I'm linked to Twitter forever. You think so?
I would imagine that you can link a new wallet to Twitter, because I think that is I don't think that it's just like you can be. I don't know to which extent, like, I have personally not used Kukai, so I don't know to which extent they have like support. But maybe you can reach out to them and ask, this is the situation. Can I set up a new wallet? Obviously, they will not be able to help you to retrieve your seed phrase because that's your private key and nobody has access to it. But alternatively, maybe there is an option to use another Tezos wallet, or maybe there's an option to just set up a new account on that and link it back to Twitter.
Oh, okay. So I just thought that I did not have a seed phrase, but I do have, right? Maybe I downloaded it somewhere.
Yeah, and if you did, then I would strongly recommend that you no longer keep it downloaded, but outside of your computer. Because,
Okay.
yeah,
Because
some of
what you
these
said
wallets,
the hot wallet. Sorry.
yeah, some of these wallets also create like a wallet file, which would be then important to not keep on your computer, but let's say on a USB stick or something, just to not be, as a backup on your device. Because let's say somebody would gain access on your computer, they would specifically look for these wallet files, right? And then with that wallet file, they might try to continue from there.
Thanks.
But I don't know the specifics of Kukai, so I maybe there's in the chat, I see there's some people talking already about it. Maybe you have somebody who has first-hand experience.
And I wanted to ask, I've heard with the cold wallet, it can still be compromised if, like, when you're in the middle of a transaction, right?
I guess, or so this is what I've heard. So I'm just curious to hear what can we do if the wallet can be compromised when it's plugged in or when we're doing some sort of a transaction. Is there anything that we should? I mean, I guess beyond what you've talked about already, just to consider about the ways that it can be hacked while it's plugged in.
Yeah, so like I'm not 100% sure how it works technically, but depending on the solution and the bridge, for instance, with MetaMask, I believe that I would have to look into it, but I don't believe that if you authorize a transaction with your hardware wallet, that the wallet would be compromised, even if you do something.
Or I guess what I've heard of is like, let's say if there's some sort of a virus or there's something in the computer that then it can enter. So yeah, I'm just kind of imagining that it can enter the cold wallet while you're transacting. So yeah, I'm just curious to hear more on that if you have any information.
Yeah,
just I guess about beyond having a hard wallet, is there something else to do?
I've not heard of a case where it would kind of in the transaction get compromised like that. I've seen cases where they would really like give you a compromised device, that's the most common case. And the whole idea is, that if you have a hardware wallet, you typically still use a hot wallet bridge,
Right.
And that hot wallet is still only interacting once your cold wallet is connected to it, But that then just serves as basically just authorizing, but not as the wallet itself in that capacity. So that's something I'm going to look into it as well. Maybe I think the example with the OpenSea and, with these bad smart contracts, if you want to call them like that, where if you try to delete one, it kind of gives you access to a wallet. I think that would be interesting to see if there has been cases or experiments to which extent it would affect a cold hot wallet bridge.
Thank you.
But what you can this is already pretty much a fairly solid system if you have that in place. If you have your hot wallet and you have a cold wallet for the storage of your assets, that is already, you're already like in a setup like that ahead of like the majority of people in this space.
Right. And I mean, I assume that you would also recommend maybe having different wallets for long-term or shorter-term use, right?
Well, the way I do it is like I have a hot wallet for my day-to-day, and then the cold wallet for like longer term storage. Like I've collected art over the last few years from other artists, or I've exchanged art with other artists, and these are artworks I always keep in my cold wallet because this is nothing I want to trade or lose as well. And I don't, it's in the perfect world, everything would be cold wallet, but if it's not possible, I think it's, for a lot of people, it's kind of convenient to have a mix of both.
And can I just clarify, when you say hot wallet, so I assume I'm imagining that's like a MetaMask, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
So then when you use the ledger, or whatever hardware wallet you use, are you talking about when you use the hot wallet, which is the MetaMask, for example, you're always using it with a hardware wallet, or you also have just one MetaMask that you're not necessarily using with the hard wallet?
Yeah, I use my MetaMask with the hardware wallet for most of the times, but I've also a MetaMask account which is not connected to a hardware wallet for like little things.
Okay, but so when you say hot wallet, it's still the MetaMask with the hardware.
The MetaMask, yeah. And the cold wallet, it starts getting cold when there's basically a device in play which you could physically separate from the internet.
Okay.
So it's cold wallet is typically it's the same as a hardware wallet. There's like a physical component to it which doesn't need to be connected to the internet.
But you're the only one really interacting with it. It's not interfacing public, right?
Exactly. You're the only one.
Okay.
You're the owner of the hardware wallet. Yeah.
Okay. And then you don't really ever use it to send to anyone outside or to receive.
To receive, you never need anything, but to send, you would have to confirm the transaction. So let's say I would like to gift an artwork on my hardware wallet to you. So I would plug my hardware wallet in my computer, open up my MetaMask with this connected bridge account, and I would say I want to transfer this NFT, and then the MetaMask would prompt me, and then my hardware wallet would prompt me to confirm the confirmation, to confirm the transaction. And if I confirm, only then it would be executed.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I think we have time for one last comment or session. Question. I just saw Luis Ricardo writing in the chat. I don't know if it's a question or not.
Don't tell that anybody. Luis Ricardo is giving us tips on where he saves his private keys, but I would recommend not to make that public.
We have Santiago writing his question. I know Santiago has some issue with the microphone, so let's wait.
Yeah, so he bought a ledger from a local marketplace, and he says some people import the ledger, and that's what I use. It was sealed. So he's typing. Let's see if there's a question.
There's a lot of hype in this question.
Yeah. So basically, Santiago doesn't feel necessarily as confident after our little workshop if he can trust this wallet. Yes, I would. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a risk there if it's, even the scammers created seals to seal it, right? It's just important to know, like, how can we verify that it was originally sealed or not manipulated, and then it was sealed again with a non-original seal. So, if you have the possibility, I would probably go for a clean ledger, just to be sure and have this peace of mind that, this is not eventually a compromised system. All right, I think we should have covered most of the questions. If you, again, I post a link to the postmortem, which gives, I think, quite a bit of interesting insights of what happened. What can you do if something happens? It's just like a good resource to browse, read through, and keep that in mind. And yeah,
Thank you
know,
so much, Martin. Yeah, I
absolutely.
think
If you,
this has been so helpful for our residents. So thank you. So many advices.
yeah, it's a lot to digest, and it seems intimidating at first, but it's one step after another, and keep in mind, that if you are just starting out, it might and it might be difficult to start right away and buying such a device, and it's fine. It's just that you already apply from the very beginning these safety steps and be very conscious about it. And then once you're able to sell your first pieces and afford a piece, then try to switch to a cold wallet to just make sure that you can keep whatever you earned.
Totally. Thank you so much again. And if you guys want to add something, otherwise we can say goodbye to each other.
All right. Yeah, feel free
Perfect.
to hit me up if you have another follow-up question or whatever.
Yeah, I will share the link of your website, Martin, so people can, a little stalk you. And yeah, so have a nice one. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Martin. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.